Pessimism is the natural state of the mind. There's nothing wrong with you if you have negative thoughts about yourself. Even if you have hateful thoughts about yourself and other people, or angry thoughts, or you're afraid of things, or you feel that life has no meaning. You might even consider yourself a nihilist. All that is natural. It's the natural state of the mind and it's a reminder for you to step out of the mind. Whenever you have thoughts of such nature, see it as a friendly reminder that you are not your thoughts, that you are not your mind. I was just reading about pessimism and nihilists, and I find it really interesting that they don't enjoy it. They are asking questions in hope of finding better answers than the ones that the mind can give them. Now, if it really was who you were, a pessimist, someone who thinks negatively, you would settle in that and you would rest in that. But the truth is, we can't rest in it, not for long. It's as if there is a safety mechanism installed in us, an indestructible power of light that will always keep us in doubt about our negative thinking, our negative feelings. You could call that a positive doubt. Like a much older and wiser version of yourself who is a little bit amused by all your negativity and your attachments and all these things that lead to misery. Your happy inner uncle or aunt, always in the background, making sure that you're safe. And whenever things are getting too far, just reminding you, hey, this is something you're pretending. You're pretending this is real. None of that negativity is real. No concept is real. So if no concept is real, then how can nihilism be real? How can negativity be real? How can death be real if there are no concepts? And the nihilist really loves the idea of death, right? They're occupied with death. Because it's the end of where the mind can take you. If you keep asking, and then, and then, and then, and why, and why, and why, and you try to uncover things, you end up with the fact that there's going to be an endpoint to the mind's existence. Not your existence, but the mind's existence. So any concern with death comes from being identified with the mind. Being in the belief that you are nothing more than the mind. If you believe that, which is again just another concept that you chose to get attached to for the time being, it's not something that is eternal. You can't take it with you. It doesn't exist outside of your own imagination anyway. But because you chose to believe that, you will now suffer all the consequences that the mind is suffering. You become that pessimistic, negative entity yourself until you learn to disidentify from the mind. And the only way we can do that, the only reliable way that does not entail drug use, is meditation. And the nihilist usually, at some point in their journey, will discover meditation, and they will explore it, and they will try it for themselves. And then they will obviously make the conclusion that it didn't work out. It didn't solve their existential problems. But there is no trying meditation and then letting go of it. You don't. The moment you let go of your meditation, what you're really doing is you're just giving up on the quest of finding something outside of your mind. So the reality is you just haven't tried hard enough. We don't try to meditate. We insist on meditating. We insist on stepping out of the mind's default state and continuous negativity. Everything you can think of is a concept. And every concept is not real. It does not help you find yourself. Getting attached to concepts, declaring that you believe in something, is creating attachment to your own mind. And once you create attachment to your own mind, you suffer the consequences of the mind. You suffer the negativity of the mind. Everything the mind will think of, you will become. You have a relationship with your mind. You can influence your mind. And the nihilist will say, but you are the mind influencing itself. Well, that's because you haven't explored the deeper layers of who you really are. You've explored the superficial layers. You have explored the surface, the mind. You have explored the mind itself, but you've never explored stepping out of it. You've never explored stepping outside of the mind for just a day to see what happens. Now you could be sitting in a chair, perfectly comfortable, feeling great, while the mind is thinking of that negative event and that person who did something and that thing that you did in the past and those things that might happen in the future. And how you're not satisfied with how things are. All that negativity could be going on inside of you, but you could be perfectly fine at the same time. This is what the pessimist fails to understand. They have a negative thought and instantly they become the negative thought. You might have a thought about an undesirable future outcome, and now suddenly you're living and embodying that. You might have a thought about a past regret, and now suddenly you're living and embodying that. And the mind is just taking you on its own journey. And you're just a prisoner, a hostage of the mind. And the mind takes you wherever it pleases. And it all comes from your fundamental belief, your attachment to something that is not real. In other words, your belief that you are the mind. Because you fundamentally believe that, you don't have a choice to have freedom from negativity, from nihilism, from pessimism, from lower frequencies, from lower levels of consciousness. You don't have a choice if you believe that you are the mind. The mind is something that happens to you. You could explore the very question itself. Right now, you could take a piece of paper and a pen. Ask yourself, what do you believe to be true about the mind? While observing yourself, contemplating this question. So if that's a possibility, if you put faith in that possibility until you gather enough confidence to try it for yourself, you will find that it's quite impossible that you could be the mind. That it's all just attachment to some concept, a concept that is not real. Because fundamentally all concepts are delusional. Any concept that you can think of can be taken apart. And if something can be taken apart, it's not real. Right? You can take a tree apart, but you can't take the life of the tree apart. You can take lies apart, but you can't take the truth apart. That is going to be there regardless of what you do. You can take the mind apart, and you will still be there. People sometimes ask me about this higher intelligence that I refer to. Because when we step out of the mind and we are no longer ruled by the mind's intelligence, we are ruled by something more powerful. That's why I call it a higher intelligence. Something that is hard to really describe, because it is, but at the same time, it is not a concept. And you can describe concepts because they are imaginative, so you can just say whatever you want about them. You might have 10 different people have 10 different interpretations of the same concept. So it's not even a fair comparison between that and our so-called higher intelligence, the source of wisdom, you could say. And whatever we say about it is really just pointers to it. It's like saying, don't be your mind, right? It's just a reminder to step outside of it. Or when we say that connect to your higher being, it's the same thing as saying step out of your mind. The main thing to understand is that there are fundamentally two paradigms to life. You are either in the grips of the mind, or you are liberated from the mind. And if we want to understand this on a practical level, we have to make it a priority for us to every single moment of our living life to make the effort to be that higher self and to let go of the lower self, the mind. The thing with concepts is that you can explore them. And if you have a so-called intelligent mind, which does not speak to true intelligence, because true intelligence is determined by how happy you are, how content you are. That's intelligence. The intelligent person is not someone who can understand or think that they understand the concept in a short amount of time. The intelligent person is someone who has a really good life and is really happy about their life and is really grateful all the time. That is an intelligent person. So, but having an intelligent mind, we could say a sharp mind, that is going to allow you to go through concepts very quickly. In a short amount of time, you can explore different philosophies, you can explore different belief systems, you can explore different religions, you can explore different ideas, different possibilities, different outcomes, different life journeys. You can explore all these things, and somewhere along the exploration journey, you will explore meditation. You will read about meditation, you will watch some videos of people meditating, you will maybe even visit a monastery and talk to meditators. You might even try meditation yourself a couple of times. Then you will conclude that meditation did not solve your existential problems, and you will continue on exploring other topics. You will explore therapy, you will explore some esoteric concepts, maybe some esoteric healings or whatever it may be. But meditation is not something you explore. I mean, you do explore it in the beginning. That's why faith is an important element to this. You need to have faith and a blind belief that it's going to work if you just give it time. And this is where the mind, or the person identified to the mind, has their biggest problem. Because blind belief, that's not something that the mind is happy about. The mind fears embarrassment more than anything. So putting your blind belief into something and letting go of the critical thinking, the mind's primary survival mechanism, that in itself is letting go of the mind. And without the knowledge of a reality beyond the mind, it's the equivalent of death. Not an ego death, but a real death. Because you're letting go of the only thing that you know as yourself. So the nihilist will say, no way that I'm putting my blind faith into anything. Everything has to go through the same process of logical deduction and critical thinking. And if it does not fit into this frame, I can't go along with it. And this is like saying that if you can't see it with your own eyes, it's not real. That little part of the light spectrum that our eyes are capable of seeing, if it does not fit into that little gap, I'm not looking at it, I'm not even trying to understand it. That's what the pessimist will say. And so they put a hard stop to this notion of putting your, just temporarily, your blind belief into this process of meditation for some time, for maybe a month of practicing this every single day as an experiment. But alongside that experiment, so to say, where you say, I'm going to meditate every single day for 30 days, along those 30 days, there's going to be a moment, there's going to be many moments, many invitations to your real self, to knowing who you really are. These invitations are going to put you in the same dilemma. You will notice how there is a point where the observer of the mind becomes just another thought inside your mind as you are observing it. You're observing the observer, observing itself. And that is, and at the same time you are there. At the same time you are still alive. At the same time life keeps going, you could say. Now, this is threatening the existence of everything you've known to be true up until that point. Everything you've believed to be true. Because there is true knowledge and there is something we can know for sure. But that is not something we can directly communicate. But it still is nonetheless, so. And it's always going to be that way. That's never going to change, right? You can't debate this away. You can't create some logical argument to take this away. And I'm not saying this because I enjoy having debates. I really don't. And I don't enjoy having conversations that are not constructive. I'm saying this to remind you that no matter how crazy the mind gets and what you end up believing in, there is this indestructible light inside of you. The potentiality to step out of the chaos and be in a total, eternal state of contentment. All the time. It's never going away. Now, through this experiment, we can explore that this is the truth, that it is the case. And then once we know that for sure, meditation becomes gradually more and more easy, because we know, we have true knowledge that whatever the mind is going through, we can always fall back on this being that we really are. That there is something more powerful than the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that we're going through. And once you explore this, life becomes very simple. There's going to be challenges in your life, there's going to be questions, there's going to be pursuits for self-improvement. And every time you have a challenge in life, the answer is always going to be the same. Connect to your higher intelligence. Be your higher self. And then the how comes in. Well, how to do it? Well, there are different schools of thought when it comes to this. And one of them is actually just that acknowledging that you're not your true self as you're going through the chaos and the negativity is enough. It's enough to just know who you are not. And by knowing who you are not, the knowledge of who you are just comes to you.